So welcome. Now, if you want to feel more confident that your teaching, your content, your classroom experiences are sticking for all your students, this interview is for you. And that's because we've got a brain scientist in the house. Now, Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath has taught at Harvard University, Harvard Medical School. He's published books and research articles, all dedicated to bringing the latest brain research to teachers just like you to help get learning stick. That's why I can't wait to get started. Okay, so welcome. So Jared, you know I'm a fan of your work. As a brain scientist, there's so much connection between what we do at Unleashed Learning and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So tell us from a brain scientist perspective, that's a big word, why is intentional engagement in the classroom so important?
Yeah. So looking purely at the brain, when we think about something like intentional engagement, what that suggests is that you're activating multiple regions of the brain, multiple programs, multiple systems of the body simultaneously. We have rule number one: the more you do, for the most part, I mean, if you have an epileptic seizure, everything's going off and that doesn't count. But for the most part, the more you activate, the more things can meld together and you can form bigger, deeper memories. So with intentional engagement, what you're doing is you're forcing not just an input of information, but an actual activation of that information along with multiple bodily systems, and things start to become embedded or embodied, as we say in psych. It literally starts to become part of you and your identity. Once you hit that stage, that's deep learning right there.
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting information in and memorizing new facts, which isn't bad, but
Well, we talk about a delivery model, which is just filling up,
yeah.
and an unleashed learning model, which is unleashing it. So I like the term embodied. It sticks for them. It's with them for a long period of time, hopefully forever.
And we now know too, we used to think about embody was kind of a cute word, everything was kind of happening up here, storage. We now know that's not true, that literally all of these systems are interconnected. And the reason we've never been able to find memories up here is because they're largely here. When you learn and remember something, it is muscle memory, it is heart memory, it is lung memory, it is stomach memory. So we've no longer got this, so long as I'm just sitting there thinking like a computer, it's all going to be fine. That's a great way to start. I need to get input information in, something to think about. But once it's in, now I need to think with all of this stuff. So from a brain perspective, you now almost go into a full biology perspective and say, you need to activate, play, move. Get that memory moving throughout.
Yeah, it's emotional,
Oh, yeah.
right? It's the heart, it's the mind, it's the spirit, it's the whole... I mean, even when you're describing it, you keep going like this, the whole body, right?
That's what,
As a brain scientist, you're all over the body.
well, we used to think that it was cool. If I get your brain and put it in a vat, there you are. But we now know that as soon as that brain is separate from these, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's gone. So emotion is perfect. Emotion isn't in the brain. No neuroscientist will talk about emotions in the brain. It's here. It's of this. So if we know this is how we work, then it makes sense to get as much of that going in our students as possible.
You know, when you describe this, it's a loud, busy, kind of sometimes chaotic, intentional, but it's intentionally chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on for that to happen.
Yeah.
So the question is, from a brain scientist perspective, what should we be thinking about that's going to help get learning to stick for all of our students?
So I think from a brain perspective, we tend to think along a trajectory. So step one, you have to start with surface knowledge, which means you have to get information in. If I don't know the basic facts of something, I can't do anything with that. You start speaking French, I'm out, because I just don't know what's going on. So step one, you have to get information in, but once it's in, putting it in again and again and again really ain't going to do much. At this point, it becomes about getting it out. So if you want to move from shallow into deep learning, it's not about getting more facts in, it's about playing with those facts we got. It's about starting to form concepts around the facts. How do these group together? Moving those concepts. How do I make sense of these bigger themes and groups, and then doing something with it? We call it application, but there you go, is now that you got these concepts, how do you know they work?
That's right.
How do you know they're meaningful? Do they resonate with you? Get out there and do something with it, and we'll see what's going on.
It's why we say it's all about lifting the weights.
Yep.
That's what we say at Unleashed Learning, that it's intentional engagement for this purpose.
Do.
Do.
Learning is doing.
It's doing.
It's not thinking. And to be fair, we used to think that thinking could be, so long as I sit there and we can, so long as, like, if I'm running swimming patterns in my head, I can get better just by visualizing.
Yeah.
But once I combine that visualizing, that thinking with the doing, all of a sudden I see a massive inswell. Combine thinking with doing, and all of a sudden, sky's the limit for what you do.
One of the things that strikes me too is you're talking the difference between surface learning and deep embedded. I like transformational learning is what I think about, right?
Yeah.
Learning that's going to last with our students for a long period of time. So that's a different kind of approach if we want to stick the way you're describing.
Yeah, and you got to think too, I think a lot of people start and stop with the shallow.
Yeah.
Get it in, pass a test, forget it a week later. No offense, that's how I got through school.
Yeah.
It kind of works at a school level.
Yeah.
But if you want more, if we're here to do better, deeper stuff, then we got to say, cool, shallow's a great start.
Yeah.
Now we got to spend the time putting the tools in place, and now we go deep. Start to personalize, internalize, utilize that information. Again, no new information required. You could spend an entire year doing nothing but thinking and playing with information you already got in there. And think about how deep that would become after that. You just don't do it.
So let's do this to finalize this. If you and I were doing a learning walk on a campus, we do a lot of learning walks at Unleashed Learning. With the brain in mind, what would you see if there was a teacher who was really thinking from the brain in mind? What would you see going on in that class?
So step one, I'd see a lot of recall, active recall from the students.
Yeah.
You want deep memories, it's about pulling them out. And I always know I'm in a classroom that's starting to go deep when the kids are saying stuff, when the kids are quizzing each other, when it's not, the teacher doesn't say, remember when we read this? Teacher says, what have we done? And the kids got to be doing stuff. So there's where you start this kind of active participation, this recall. And then you start to see, I don't want to say a diffusion of responsibility, but almost this, it's noisy, it's loud, it's active, where everyone starts to be doing stuff. And it's no longer, I'm kind of helping you understand new facts. It's I'm walking around, just making sure you're not going too far off the tracks, but everyone is doing stuff. In those moments, and I know we were talking earlier that you can sometimes mistake that for an out-of-control classroom, but any teacher who's been in a classroom more than a day can tell the difference between a really engaged active classroom and a really disengaged active classroom. It's a very different feel. And
you're looking for different things too. I mean, if you're looking for what kind of engagement, it's a very specific kind of engagement that's happening. It's not just out of control. It's really intentional the way you're describing that.
And that's and everyone, they might have their own thing. Some kids will be tackling writing a new song. Some kids will be making a poster. Some kids will be arguing and debating. And that's, so long as they're all doing totally different things, but you know they're all doing it with information. They're thinking about playing with concepts. You've locked and loaded.
That's exactly
As opposed to thinking about what crayon they want to color a cupcake in with.
Or a fact that I'm going to tell you about and you do nothing with, right?
As long as you can circle the right answer on this test, we're all happy.
That's not going to do it. So, look, we're talking about lifting the weights and intentional engagement. So here's a way to embed this learning. What we're going to ask you to do is in the blog post below, when you write it, you learn it. So if you worked with us, you know that. Would you record the one big takeaway? What's the one thing that you take away from this interview? While you're there, and you may not know this, but we've got a free ebook, The Ultimate Classroom Setup Guide. Will help create the conditions for you about how you set that classroom to get the kind of learning we're talking about. So, Jared, you know how much I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
I love the work you're doing, and we love the work you're doing, so we are both cheering you on, and we will see you next time. We'll see you then.